5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is Chad Bear, and you're listening to My Alien Life.
This Elohim race has a leader called the Most High. And that is what is translated as God in the Bible. So I guess I want the viewers to just take away this point that this wasn't God that created man, but what it was a very high being from a very advanced race, and they used either mixing their genes with ours, the primates, to create us, or they simply used some sort of genetic fine-tuning or enhancement that really created the first modern human being, and that was Adam and Eve. And there may have been more than one instance of it across the globe. I'm not sure.
My Alien Life is recorded high atop the Northern Rocky Mountains and is heard all over the world, and you can listen everywhere fine podcasts are found. My website is www.myalienlifepodcast.com. There you'll find links to every episode, stories, photos, the My Alien Life Legends page, and much more. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and consider becoming a patron while you're checking out all the content. I'm your host, Cameron Logan. This is My Alien Life, and the podcast starts right now.
My Alien Life Podcast.
Three, two, 1, 0, and liftoff.
Last week, I thanked a bunch of people for their participation in My Alien Life podcast, and I'm talking about financial participation. We have so many participants and a lot of support. So there was a few of those that I threw out there, and actually it was quite a list. And I kind of wanted to talk about briefly what happened because I was trying to keep you updated on different things that were added to my show technologically, and had been struggling for a while. And because I've kind of been doing the same thing for so long that I really didn't want to deviate from the big picture and the paradigm that I had rolling. So, but here's what happened. It was about a year ago. I did a Kickstarter campaign, and I was able to parlay some fundage into an actual computer. I mean, I had a computer, but lost it, and it's like a $2,200 computer. So I really didn't want to go that route again. Couldn't afford to. I started with about a year ago with a $400 27-inch iMac, an older one. It was working excellent. Until I had to reinstall the operating system, and I lost GarageBand, as everybody knows, which saves me so much time, and I really couldn't take the time to learn about new software and edits of the show and whatever. So my bigger, better campaign sort of began. I thought, people trade up. It's not often, but it's actually done. So I actually sold my computer, made like $50 on that, stumbled across a 15-inch MacBook Pro and a newer 27-inch iMac for $260 for the whole package. So I grabbed that. The iMac was so fantastic, but I had to think a bit into the future how long I wanted that thing to last. Well, it wasn't going to last as long as I needed it to last because of Mac operating systems. So I decided, 10 years. Let's go 10 years. So I went into Costco, bought the M1 Mac Mini, sold the newer iMac for $650, used some of my generous donations that I received and paid for this whole menagerie of computer stuff, including a monitor. So now I have this very nice setup with my Mac Mini, my laptop side by side. I'm very, very happy. And so I want to thank everybody again for participating financially and helping me out. And if you want to do that, you can do that at Patreon, and please do. I mean, like $1 a month. It's a small price to pay for, at least 5 or 6 podcasts a month. So I also want to thank Edgar Lane for his generosity. The show will go on, Edgar, and of course there will be more BJ Evans. And thank you for being patient. Cass, I was thinking about you today, and you wrote a book. When was that?
2014.
2014. Can we just talk about that for 1 minute? So you wrote it
anytime.
Well, it's 2014. What was it about?
I was trying to condense my experience and what I have to say to people into like an artistic format, like vampires and werewolves versus psychic aliens and dragons kind of thing.
Right.
But the most important thing is I was trying to sort of teach people how to do what I do. If you follow the book, the characters go through all of the steps to sort of enter the realm of quantum manipulation and healing.
Cool. So yeah, you may be my my part-time mentor on that. I kind of mentioned that I've been writing one, and it was sort of done. And as you know, things change. I mean, the longer you let it sit, the more you're likely to change the whole thing. And,
oh yeah,
that's kind of where I'm at right now. And this is the better time of it. I think I enjoy it a lot more, and kind of on the rewrite. But I'm thinking about a Kickstarter campaign, not really just to get to make money on it, but to get it out there to people and give, that's free advertising and an opportunity for people to get it. And I think one of the things I really like about being able to do an online book is the fact that you can change it, and things come up, you can make additions, you can make changes. Every book has a mistake in it. So, or an error of some sort, whether it be grammatical. Sometimes it's even bigger than that. So, I think
not
it's
mine.
really cool.
Mine's perfect.
Is it? So
mine's perfect.
Sometimes when you talk, Cass, I can hear a bunch of airflow. Like, I don't know what that is, but it's like a jet engine blowing in the back of your head. But I don't know what that is. But just so you know. Anyway, yeah, I think that to be able to change that and make additions, because I really don't want to write a 500-page book. It's too long. It's too long for people to read. But if they own the book and then you make additions to it, and someday it may be 500 pages, and they can just chip off it a little bit at a time, I think that's pretty cool. But there's other variations of that. I'm not sure how you did that. You did a hard print right away, right?
Oh heck no! I did the download at first, ebook at first,
right.
And then you can do print on demand as an option later. But I like what you're on about, changing your work, because work evolves.
Right.
Star Wars is proof of that.
Right. I didn't see Star Wars. Actually, I did. I'm kidding. So tonight, this is it's not a departure from what we normally talk about, but it's a different spin on it, and I'm pretty excited to invite our guest aboard. A few years ago, Larry Gerndt decided to read the entire Bible. He was on a mission. He also felt that there was a great mystery regarding God, gods, extraterrestrials, angels, etc., and he wanted to see what he could make of it. So tonight we're talking about ancient aliens and the Bible, and I'd like to welcome Larry. Welcome, Larry.
Thanks, Cameron. Good to be here.
Yeah, so you have a website, and so I was looking into that, and it's interesting. It's called Emerging Truths, and honestly, Larry, the one thing I'm skeptical about sometimes is when we're talking about writing, is when people write. Honestly, they put out some really exciting stuff, or content rather, but the writing's not that great. So, but Larry, on your website, I love your writing. I mean, it's very nice to read. So thanks for doing that.
Thank you so much for saying that. It's, the site isn't really well known. I do have a Facebook group of about 3,000 people with the ancient aliens in the Bible. And it's funny because when I first started doing videos, I kept promising I'm going to do videos. So I did my first video and I got like 0 likes. I was just astounded. I don't think that was like an intentional diss. I think that most of the members are presumably dead now.
Well, the other thing too is people, pick it up. They might look at your video for 3 minutes and, revisit it from time to time. So, if they're like me, they do a lot of surfing. Facebook especially, but on YouTube as well. But your website though is kind of organized like a book, I guess. On the left hand margin there, you have how would you describe that, Larry, and how you have that divided into what? How did you decide on that?
Yeah, each of those are just areas that I felt were worthy of an article. So as I read through the Old Testament, these things came up, and there's a couple New Testament stuff as well, but it's mostly Old Testament. And I want to tell you right up front, I want to assure your audience that I'm not a religious guy. My brother is, and he's 12 years older than me. And my sister is like the opposite. She's like a new ager, 15 years older than me. So I kind of feel like I'm in between those two. And it's been, my brother tried to save me, and he's done that more than once. He's really like devoted to that. And I'm sorry, but the ideology that is accepted is just disgusting to me, and I don't think it's true. So I think Christianity has made a mess of the real message there from Jesus.
Hallelujah.
But what's that?
Oh, I just said hallelujah.
Yeah. And when it came to the Old Testament, that's where I find all the gold. And what I mean by that is there's technology on display in those pages. I did not expect to find that when I first opened it. I kind of thought, I might make a few correlations or something, but I'm not going to enjoy this. And I was really pleasantly surprised. And I will say, right.
Let me ask you this question. Just back up really quick, because how did you get there though? I mean, what happened one day where you decided to basically read the Old Testament and then draw some parallels?
Well, to be honest, this was 25 years ago, and I found myself between jobs, and I got messed up on meth. I got hooked up on meth for 2 years, and I was in a motel room. I lost everything I had in my life. I was a software engineer, but it was a gradual descent into what many people would say is just simple schizophrenia, but it's gone now because I don't do that stuff anymore. I did it for a year and a half, but here I was in a motel room, and there's one book in there, right? And so I picked it up, and I think I'm in communion with a lot of these. They weren't nice at first, but they kind of morphed into what I thought was actually Jesus. And I can't tell you for sure because he never did say that. And I never did get real clear communication. It was like they were in my thought stream, and they would inject thoughts that I knew were not. I'm not able to create such a beautiful thought as that. So I started believing that this might really be real. And so that's what led me into reading the Old Testament, and that's where I started. And as soon as I got into one of the very first stories, Adam and Eve, I was already hooked, because there are just some glaring points about that story I'd love to bring up, but they're bizarre. And on top of that, that original sin is really the basis for all of Christianity. And where that comes from is the story of Adam and Eve. But what I'd like to do tonight, if you would be so inclined, is I'd like to use that story to prove to you a theory, to submit to you a theory for your evaluation. And it's based on the ancient alien theory.
Absolutely, Larry. Please do.
Okay. Let me take a sip of water there.
But I am listening. I'm on your side.
Great to hear. So let me start out by saying that this theory is predicated on the ancient alien theory, which is, depending on who you ask, extends all the way to the Bible and who created us. and that's what I do think the theory applies to. So if your readers are new to this theory, just imagine this scenario. We have naturally evolving primates on the planet, and another race, an advanced race called the ELEON, come down and decide to create man in their own image. So that question right there, in their own image, why were we told this? Well, because it's true. And there's a lot of examples in the Bible. I won't go into them unless asked, but there are many examples which indicate that angels were not what we think of as wispy creatures. They were beings that looked surprisingly and amazingly handsome or beautiful. All I know about is male angels, but I know that they were considered to be just absolutely beautiful. So this is the race, and some number of those Elohim were allotted to watch over us, and they were called the Watchers. Now, within this group, about 200 Watchers found themselves attracted, according to the Bible, attracted to the beauty of female humans. And they decided to come down and take wives, all of which they chose, right? Genesis 6:4. And they mated with the human women. And what happened was their children became giants.
The Nephilim, right?
Yeah, the Nephilim. But they also did a whole bunch of other stuff, which some of it was good for us. Like they taught us things about medicine and how to make metal. And they also taught women how to wear cosmetics, make cosmetics and wear them. And now where it starts to get a little bit more revealing of their character is that they also taught women how to beautify their eyes with makeup. And that one struck me a little odd because it seems like maybe they were trying to dress them up to make them look a little more beautiful for them. Anyway, we're off in the weeds here.
There's some cultural stuff there for later.
Yeah. So backing up now, I want to say that this Elohim race has a leader called the Most High. And that is what is translated as God in the Bible. So I guess I want the viewers to just take away this point that this wasn't God that created man, but what it was a very high being from a very advanced race. And they used either mixing their genes with ours, the primates, to create us, or they simply used some sort of genetic fine-tuning or enhancement that really created the first modern human being, and that was Adam and Eve. And there may have been more than one instance of it across the globe. I'm not sure. But now, so that's the first step that you have to sort of agree to, is that this wasn't God. This was a extraterrestrial race. Now, to those people at that time, that distinction wouldn't have meant a lot, because the things that Yahweh, I will say, that's the name of the Most High. By the way, if I sound funny, it's because my teeth are missing. Let me take another drink of water here.
It's okay. Your words have enough gravity. It's all good.
Awesome. So, all right. So if we'll agree that we were genetically engineered to make us look like them, which is very odd. I don't understand how that could be possible, but the Bible does confirm, as I kind of was just saying, that they do look like us. This race does. There's a lot of other ETs out there that are not of this type as well, but this is the ET race that, shepherded us. And I'm sure it's the same as the Anunnaki from the Sumerian clay tablets. It's the corollary there to early Genesis and Sumerian text is undeniable. So it's the same story. Now, I got to tell you guys that I spent way too much time on the story of Adam and Eve. I felt almost embarrassed, but I was making headway on it. I was trying to resolve. Hey, wait! It sounds like God's lying here about the tree, but the story wouldn't be telling me that God lied about something, would it?
No, not at all.
That was an unexpected thing. So how do I resolve this? He clearly lied about it being poison. Let's just for the sake of some of the listeners who might know more about this. There are some arguments, like somebody will say, oh, there's a verse in the New Testament that says a day in the Lord is like 1,000 years. So if he said, in the day that you eat of it, you shall surely die, that could be up to 1,000 years. But that doesn't hold water, does it?
Nope.
No, because they went on to live for like 930 years. So they didn't die. What happened to them, in fact, the story itself, the narrator confirms that exactly what the serpent said would happen did happen. The confusing thing about it is that the serpent said that their eyes would be opened and they would be as gods, knowing good and evil, specifically that aspect. And so, they took of it, and man has made of this like this was the ultimate sin, to disobey God. But I'm going to tell you just the opposite. We're going to get to the point where I'm going to tell you that they did the right thing, and it was what he was expecting and hoping that they would do, if he is that good of a being. Yeah, but we'll get there. All right, so Adam and Eve commit this act, and what happens is it says that they knew that they were naked, and so they clothed themselves. So why didn't they know this before, right? I mean, if they're just, you eat the apple and all of a sudden you can see your body or something, it didn't make a lot of sense. And I turned to the first book of Adam and Eve, which is a Hebrew oral tradition, which I'm really not inclined to believe. When you read these books, it seems like most of it is made up. I could be wrong, but it's not known for its reliability. But there was some just fascinating details in there about why they couldn't see each other the same way until they ate the apple. That's when they saw their nakedness. And the reason is because they were apparently using their third eye, and they were able, the book says that they were able to look up to heaven and see the angels singing, and yet when they ate of the apple, their natures changed, and now they could no longer see these angels up there. But what they did see was the sun, and it scared them because they had never seen the sun before. It had always been light everywhere, but not the sun, and they'd never seen night before. So apparently that's what, if you want to trust that oral tradition, they're giving you an answer there as to what it meant by their eyes were opened. It's kind of like it was accompanied with a change to their nature.
Indeed, biological and physiological.
Yes. Which is why he had to clothe them before he pushed them out. But now let's get on to the punishments, right? Because this is where the gold is found. The punishment of the serpent was that he should no longer have legs. So on your belly you shall go is the quote. So he apparently had legs at first. He could talk, and now he's not going to have legs, and he's going to be a snake or something, which just sounds real. I'm going to say it just sounds unlikely to me. But so I'm going to say he was an actor, but that's not crucial to my theory. I think he may have been an actor that was sent in to coax them into doing what the Lord didn't want them to do, or claimed he didn't want them to do. All right, so that was his punishment. Now we get to Adam. His punishment was because you have done this, cursed is the ground. Thorns and thistles it shall yield to thee, but you shall till it by the sweat of your brow. So he's saying that farming is going to be really hard out there outside the garden. And the reason it's so hard is because I'm punishing you. Okay. Just put a pin in that. Let's move on to Eve. Now this is where we run into something very troubling that requires our thought. Okay. Because her punishment was, because you have done this, I'm going to make childbirth painful, much more painful than it already would be. So if you look out there, and now I'm just ad-libbing here, but so if you look out there and you see animals having children and you wonder why they don't seem to have as much pain as you do, just remember it's because I'm punishing you. That's why.
And remember, kids, science backs him up. Larry, I love you. Keep going, man.
Thanks. Love your support. Kind of eases my mind a little bit. I'm nervous.
You don't have to worry. The bar isn't very high here, Larry, so you're doing great.
Okay, great. Well, I think it is because I already love you guys. But anyway, okay, so what, pain in childbirth? What? That's what you should be saying right here. Where did that come from? And, you know, if you're smart, you'd probably say to yourself, okay, I've never read the whole Bible, so maybe there is, you know, a spot in there somewhere where somehow the childbirth pain is a normal punishment for, you know, doing something wrong against God. No, there is no such thing like that in the Bible. So it is just as weird as it sounds until you apply the ancient alien theory. So here's that solution to this riddle. When they did their genetic engineering, our nearest ancestor, by the way, has a smaller brain than us. And I know it's confusing because we've heard that Neanderthal had a bigger brain than us, but we didn't actually derive from Neanderthal. So it is true that indeed, prior to Adam and Eve, which was there was a big missing link, and it had to do with everything, how we're distinguished from our primate ancestors. And so who is that missing link? Well, the Elohim are with their genetic engineering. And what they did when they genetically engineered us is they made our brains larger. So now, if you have a normal sized womb, but a much larger brain, you're going to have a lot of pain in childbirth. All right. So you would ask yourself, well, if they're genetic engineers, and this is where I was stuck for about a year, if they're genetic engineering, can't they just enlarge the womb to make more room for it so there's not so much damn pain?
No, because then they won't walk. I'm sorry. I'm shutting up. I'm getting into explain mode.
You jumped the gun. I think I heard you say it.
Yeah, sorry.
They would not be able to walk upright if the womb was made any larger.
The trick was getting the offspring to survive outside the womb during the developmental phase.
Exactly. And when it seems to me like when they finally made that choice, to take the forbidden fruit, it seems to me that this is what God wanted. After all, he did originally say, replenish the earth, fill the earth, replenish it. And then they switch over into this Adam and Eve story, and it's like different. But anyway,
sorry.
Go ahead.
You ever notice the word replenish? If they were the first, replenish from what? Right?
I went down that rabbit hole with my Strong's Concordance, and it was inconclusive. I just had a dead end. I could not figure out for sure if the re was really meant in there or if it was just they made. I don't think we have a word called plenish, but we have replenish. So maybe that was the nearest English word that would fit. I'm just not sure. But let me go back home and nail this one more. I mean, nail this point home. Pain in childbirth is definitely the result of their genetic engineering. And now, I mean, that is the bombshell, and I feel like that's going to. But let me say this too. We're gonna try to abolish original sin as a concept here. It's my understanding of, after considering the story for this long, that the plan was for Eden to be a womb, and when they were considered ready to, if the experiment went well, they had to kind of observe, are these automatons, or are they, because, I think free will was an important part. So, and also the ability to reason things out, because honestly, if I was Eve, I would have done the same thing. I would have, because let's picture that moment here where, she's with the serpent and she's been told by God, who only comes down, on a whim and talks with them and then leaves. But here's the serpent, and he kind of lives around here, and he can talk. It's so silly, isn't it? But anyway, what was I on about here? Oh, just that if I was Eve, I would have done the same thing, because she looks at this fruit, and he approaches her actually and says, "Hey, were you told not to eat from any of these trees?" And she said, "Oh, we can eat from all of them, but not this one here in the middle. This was God's tree. This is where he comes down and visits." And what she thought, I'm sure, I can imagine, this is a beautiful fruit. It's what God eats. And the serpent here just told me that God doesn't want me to have this because it'll make me wise. But I want to be wise.
Specifically, it said it'll make you wise like him. It's that
right.
that lure,
Yes. Oh, yeah. It's like I never thought of that.
Big payoff.
Yeah. So did they attain that? Well, no, because the only thing the Bible says is that they knew they were naked. But you know what? In a way, they did, because you're only going to learn about the world and evil and good, the knowledge of good and evil. You're not going to get it from a fruit, but you will get it from living on this fucked up planet, right? You might have to bleep that, but isn't it true? This is a painful, painful planet for most of us.
Are you a starseed?
I don't know, but I can tell you one thing on that. I've had a really lousy life. I hate my life. I don't want a life review when I die. Okay. But now that I'm in my retirement time, I really am starting to give credence to the idea that I've had bouncing around in my head for years, that I might have been placed here at this time, to help do something, maybe like what we're doing right now. So if whatever small role I may have, I'd love to do it. And I actually have a feeling that my sister had a dream that was very similar to that she was going to be ushering in a new age. And that never got to happen, but she's still alive. So I'm kind of hoping it happens soon.
I was going to say, age ain't over yet.
Yeah, it's not. So, all right. So now let's just wrap through the rest of the story. So he has lied to them, and I'm not stressing that as a reason to like hate him or anything. I want us to just understand who we were dealing with here. It wasn't a malicious lie, but why would you want to send people out, boot them out? I mean, first of all, they would never leave Eden, right? Because it's too nice there. So he needed a reason to kick them out. This is my speculation, is that he's smart enough. He was smart enough to come up with a way of kicking them out, telling them that they had disobeyed him and they're not going to be allowed back in. But that was just the way that, like, the big birds push out their little baby birds out of the nest, and they better fly. And it was expected that they would, and they did. So it was successful. But now we have this nasty thing called original sin. You know, people in the New Testament are saying, by one man came sin into the world, and by God's Son, sin will be banished. You know, oh God. So I think that's been
a dreadful concept, right? It
is. It sure is. Thank you for saying that. It really is. You know, the things about Christianity, it's, and some of, and I'm not going to blame anybody. All of us have been indoctrinated in something. And now it seems like we're all starting to realize, hey, am I changing because, or was it always like this and we just didn't see it now, but now we can? I'm hearing that all over about everything. So it's like we're waking up slowly to the truth about how just, you know, living under, the Old Testament is downright fascism. This is a God who is quick to anger. And I'll give you one example of that really sticks out in my mind, is that when Moses went up to the mount to meet with, in quotes, God, his people down below started wondering, why is he gone so long? It's been 40 days, you know. Now that could have been an approximation, but it means a long time, many days. And they got fed up waiting for him and, you know, built the golden calf. And I don't really understand what they expected to get from that, but it was a vestige of their time that they had lived in Egypt. So it was a practice that they had followed there in Egypt.
It's a conductivity thing.
Pardon me?
It's a conductivity thing.
Conductivity.
Yeah, the ancient Egyptians understood, by ancient Egyptian standards, and by extension, the Hebrews understood that they needed a vessel to put their belief in, otherwise the energy would be wasted. This is a really bad thing, according to the Bible.
Wow.
That's why.
Interesting. Where was I now? I was wrapping that. I was gonna. Egypt, yes, a remnant of Egypt where they had built these gods. Now this apparently, and I'm giving you an example here of Yahweh, expressing what kind of a person he was. When he said, go down now, because your people have already gone astray. And so he came down and he was pretty worried about whatever God was talking about. And then he noticed what it was. They were all dancing and singing, and their golden God was there. And so Yahweh said, I don't know if you guys know this, but because you guys know that he broke the tablets, and then he had to go back up again, right?
Yes, sir.
So he went back up again, and God said to Moses that, I've had it. I want to wipe all of them out and just start over with you. How's that? And Moses, begged him not to do that. So then he acceded. What's the word? Acquiesced and didn't do it. But another example is when they were really hungry and they were tired of the manna. So they said, we want meat. And Moses went up to Yahweh and said, in his meeting in the tent, said, the people are wanting meat. And, oh, yeah, they want meat, do they? I'll give them meat to the full. It'll be coming out their nostrils. That was paraphrased because I can't remember. But he used that phrase, it'll be coming out their nostrils. And what he did was he brought just huge flocks of quail and had them drop dead right over everybody. There you go. So that's the kind of guy Yahweh was. And, he was a fascist, but, at the same time, he didn't have the malicious desires of an earthly man. So he was just a hard dictator, and that's the way he felt it should go. But we can see here in this story that we can see right through now to this. He was telling us that the pain in childbirth was because he was punishing them, but no, it wasn't. So that was a lie. And what he told Adam about, the farming being hard, well, it was going to be hard. Farming is hard. And then, so I don't really see that as a punishment either. So he wasn't punishing Eve. He wasn't punishing Adam. And as far as the serpent goes, that's a wild card because he doesn't even sound real to me. So it wasn't a punishment. It was he pushed them out, and he watched over them after they had come out. So I think that is our story. I think that's our story. I mean, that's a wrap on my presentation for the Adam and Eve story. Questions?
Oh man, I don't have a lot of questions. I have a lot to build on your theory, though.
Oh, please.
Oh man. Oh gosh, where to start? But basically, okay. First off, I agree with you 100%. Very
Excellent.
Specifically, I can fill in some stuff. Like, for example, the Gregorhim were not the same caste as the Elohim. They're similar in taxonomic structure, but not really the same ones, which is why the Gregorhim were able to fall for humans, whereas the Elohim did not. Yeah, it's the Gregorhim are kind of like an intermediary hyperdimensional species. So
that makes a lot of sense.
I'm so glad.
That would be why they were able to have sex and be dense, rather than being more of a light body.
Right. And to answer your thing, as far as them teaching women to paint their eyes, there's a lot more to it than that. They also taught things like birth control, which was a really bad idea. Humans, I'm going to get crucified for saying this. I don't think humans are ready for that yet. Not even today.
Let me interject. The reason that they did that is so that the women's figure could be maintained. Right? When they get pregnant, they get fat. So
that makes sense.
Some do. So this was another very shady kind of thing. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the Gregorhim are not so great as beings as people like to think. I mean, there's a reason why they got punished as well. Another thing I'd like to point out is that, and this is not an argument, like a building on, like continue your research, kind of thing. A lot of the issues that you're talking about were introduced by the Council of Nicaea by Emperor Constantine. They got literally switched around. So like the idea that you will die as soon as you eat the fruit, that got switched. Just that your innocence will die. You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of things make a lot more sense when you cross-reference with the old Hebrew. But I'm with you on there. It was an oral tradition. I mean, I love my people, but oral tradition isn't exactly very reliable. Right. It literally takes just one dude to go, oh well, the story actually went this way. Give me extra stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And with that much, I mean, it's just hard to get a reliable account of exactly what happened. So
exactly.
I feel like sometimes the midrash and maybe the oral tradition, is that the same thing? The midrash?
I think so, but I'm not so good with my Jewish.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I just feel like those were written to try to fill in the holes that rabbis found when they were studying the Bible. And I kind of feel like they threw out the book of Enoch in that meeting that you were talking about, because that was just too hard to kind of fit into their understanding of a single God.
Awakened humans are impossible to control. You can't tax somebody who can alter reality. You just can't do it.
That's true too, isn't it?
So Larry, let me ask you a question. One of my, I don't know, I wouldn't call it my favorite, but one of the most interesting biblical stories to me is the story of the Passover. And I know you wrote a chapter on your website about that. Can you explain that and what'd you find out? Because it's a terrifying story, really.
Yeah. Well, the first thing I would say about that story is that why would they need to paint blood over the door in order to identify who they were, so that the angels, quote unquote, I mean, they were angels, but what is an angel, right? Whoever they were, these beings, they were above us. They should have knowledge of who's where, and yet they were asked to paint blood over the door. So that's the first question I had. But when I dug into it further, I found that they were asked to. Oh, this, by the way, I just want to throw out an interesting. It doesn't really have too much to do with what I'm about to say, but there was an interesting discovery I made that sheds a little bit of light on what kind of relationship the Egyptians had with the Hebrews. They had become neighbors, and they were actually all good friends. And this is why, on the night of the Exodus, God, in quotes, commanded them, I should say Yahweh, commanded them to borrow just silver jewels and gold jewels, as many as they could, from their neighbors. So this indicates that they were on good terms. They borrowed all this jewelry, and then they made off with it. But that's because that was where the Ark of the Covenant was made, from that gold.
If I can make an interjection, building on your point, Egyptian records of the situation also bear this out. When Thutmose left and took the Hebrews, many of the Egyptians went with. So yeah, you're right, dude. You're batting 1,000, man.
Fantastic. So yes, on the Passover. Sorry, I'm fading a little bit. Every time I turn my head to kind of look in space and think about something, my mic is less loud. The other couple of details that stood out as if something was going on here was that they were told to take this calf and bring it into the house 4 days in advance of the Exodus. And then on the night of the Exodus, they were supposed to eat this calf. And the directions were very odd, because they actually specified the instructions that if any household be too small to like eat a whole one, then they should, join with some other household, and there should be none left over by morning. And any that is left over by morning must be burned to ashes.
Yes.
Okay. Why? Yeah. Why? Evidence, I think that's destruction of evidence. They didn't. Now, okay, why do I say that? Well, this is supposedly the Most High, Elohim, but there were other gods out there, and I don't know if they were of the Elohim race, but they were capable of things, and they would have wanted to know what happened here. And so if they would have dug into and done a forensic exam of these, goats that were I guess I skipped my point, didn't I? My point was that I think something was injected into these lambs when they were in the house for 4 days. And it was like an additional safeguard so that when they ate the Passover, it would sort of immunize them. And this was kind of a supplement to the paint over the door.
I can see that, actually.
Good. And there's one more very strange part of this. And what was it again? It's in the house for 4 days. Oh, yeah. This is the way they had to cook it. It was instructed that they must not roast it. Well, why not? It's not explained. I mean, they must roast it. They must not boil it. And actually, it didn't take me too long, because I was starting to think that something was done to these lambs, such that when they ate it, they would get it. And what I think that was, it's pointed to by the fact that they were told, you do not boil this, because if you boil the meat and there is something in that meat that would leach out into the water, so they said you must roast it. And you must roast it and even eat the pertinence thereof, which is the guts. So that does not sound good at all. I don't imagine that they did eat the guts. They probably just burned it in the morning. But that was the commandment. And so, because then there's this phrase that, kind of gives it all away. And it's supposedly from Yahweh saying, "This I do because I am executing judgment on all the gods of Egypt." And what happened was that the firstborn of both man and beast died.
Yeah.
So, if you're trying to, I'm not sure how what kind of technology accomplishes that, but it was some kind of technology. Firstborns all died. None of the Israelites, but all of Egypt. I don't know. But
You know, the inoculation idea makes so much sense. I'm surprised I never thought of it before. That makes perfect sense. You know,
Yeah.
I was in my head going on this big rant about, radiation and Uziel and all that stuff. But the thing is, the Passover never made sense to me. But the idea that there was some kind of inoculation in the lambs and in the blood. Now we're cooking with gas. I think we should.
Yeah.
I think we should, like, if anybody listening to this, let's get some research going on this. I like this idea.
Yeah.
You are a
Well,
brilliant man.
Thank you so much. Wow, this is really great for my first interview. I'm really feeling good. What was I thinking now about? I was just going to tack on that. Although I'm not a religious man, I know that they used this story. Jesus used it to make an analogy. He said he was the Passover lamb, and he said, eat of my flesh and drink of my blood, which is, terrible metaphor, but and you will not die. And he pointed back to this Passover incident as a sort of a antecedent, of the same concept. But now Jesus talks spiritual. He talks spiritual about everything, any kind of physical analogy that he can use to point back to the spiritual he used. So,
truth. A lot of Jesus' teachings make more sense when you understand that he went to like places like Tibet and stuff in his early age, and then some of this stuff starts to make sense. Like the flesh of my flesh, blood of my blood. That's a Tibetan thing. You know what I mean?
No kidding.
Oh yeah, it's a metaphorical concept.
Wow.
But so it's like when you start to like look at the countries he traveled through and where he picked up his knowledge on his journey, it all makes a lot more sense. And I'm not saying that people should believe in Jesus. You believe what you want to believe, but the man was extraordinary.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my understanding of him is that he was extraordinary at playing the role of the Son of Man. In other words, he came down and he knew that there was something special about him, and I don't believe it was a lot, but probably a telepathic channel. That might have been the special thing that he had, and not even on his own demand, but it would work when the Father wanted to communicate with him. And the miracles that he did were actually, I think, done by invisible agent, which they called the Holy Spirit. But they knew what he wanted, and so the Holy Spirit knew what he wanted done, so they would just go off and do it. That's what I think. And so I don't know if he was like a supernatural being, but I do know that, as we all know, that he didn't have a father, and this is something that happens throughout the Bible and throughout Egyptian lore as well, where and children are born of a virgin. So in those cases, I think that's a clear indication that they were genetically tinkered with. Either it was part father, genetically enhanced, or it was no father in there at all. It was someone else from above, and it's their sperm that impregnated them.
Well, don't forget parthenogenesis. Parthenogenesis is a factor. With the right stimulation, a female can basically self-fertilize. It's actually happened 8 times in modern medical history with humans, but they keep that under wraps because people would freak out. Wait, wow. You're saying that Jesus wasn't really a miracle? No, just parthenogenesis got nothing to do with it.
Right, exactly.
Not to mention the hybrid theory.
Yeah.
Well, wow, and you say it seldom happens, so I mean, it's the big deal. I mean, even if it was just a historical factor or a once in a lifetime event for people in their limited knowledge at the time, it's still a huge thing. So even that would perpetuate itself as an oral tradition story that would last for 1,000 years, probably or more.
Agreed. I'm just saying science backs up all this stuff. So don't ever feel
Yeah.
very crazy.
Well, it can, yes, but we're believers in aliens, so why why can't anything happen? Really? Come on.
Agreed.
I mean,
That's the beauty of it.
you know, it's is there anything less miraculous than a human being or an alien being, or anything could happen. I mean, don't let your mind stop there. Keep it going. Keep it going, Larry.
So,
Yes.
so here's what I'm worried about right now, and I'm trying to find the right footing here. Not that I'm, like I said, not that I'm a Christian, because I can't use that word, right? It's been tarnished. It means something completely different now. I mean, so I can't really call myself a Christian. I never had a born again experience, but I do kind of feel like the Spirit is there quietly. And so, what was I going to say now about Jesus and what I'm worried about. Yeah. Okay. This is kind of a worry. Tell me what you guys are thinking about this. I mean, if we just take Jesus or the Gospels at their word, they're saying that Jesus did say that there was going to be a very strong deception sent to the world, such that they should believe a lie and be damned. Did he actually say that? I think that was Jesus that said, yes, it was. But he didn't explain what that, because he said, because the Lord will send strong delusion to them, or the Father will, or something like that. And so what is that delusion? And, if we have, let's say, I think these ETs are going to be in our lifetimes out in front of us, and we're going to have their technology. I'm waiting for the med bay because
Sorry.
So, if they come down and bring their technology that heals the world of its physical woes, but okay, a couple of questions. One, what about the spiritual aspect of us? Because we're kind of a mess right now. We need some unification, some clearing up of things that have driven us apart as a people. And if we're going to continue to fight each other, we're not going to get their technology. That's what I keep hearing, and I keep thinking that might be true. But that isn't my question. My question is, what are we supposed to? I think my question is going to be, where's Jesus in all this? Because if they come down and people are getting healed left and right with this technology, it's hard to distinguish between that and what Jesus called the kingdom of heaven. Because here's what happened real quickly when John the Baptist was in prison about to get his head chopped off. Jesus didn't come and rescue him. And so John sent word to Jesus saying, are you the one, or should we look for another? And he said, he turned to the audience and to the messengers and said, he went into this thing about how among men there is no finer on earth than John the Baptist. But now let's see, where was I heading with this? So Jesus said that, tell John what you see. The blind received their sight, the deaf received their hearing, the lame walk. It looks to me like the kingdom of heaven has come to earth. And that was his answer to John. Well, if we see that same type of thing coming down with the ETs, what are we supposed to think if Jesus isn't with them? I don't see any way around it. He has to be with them.
I agree, sir. I agree.
Well, why can't he be something totally separate altogether? I mean, why does it have to be one or the other? Being objective, Larry.
Because he warned us about a delusion that would be very convincing, and so he's asking us to use our minds to distinguish between the false one or ones and him. And he did say that, in order to help you with that, when I do come, it will be like lightning that lights up the sky from east to west. And, like the whole world will know all at the same time.
And every eye shall behold him.
Yeah. So, I don't know how this sits with you guys, but I'm kind of the mind that he might actually be coming, because he said, in a thick cloud I come. The clouds were always used in the New Testament and in the Mount Sinai event as well, to cloak something inside. And Jesus said, behold, I come in power, in a thick cloud, with power and glory. So it almost, you could almost read that to be like a mothership, just a glorious, or maybe, the New Jerusalem is described as a Borg cube with about 144 miles on each side. So that doesn't
knew you were going to bring that up.
Yeah.
No, you just described exactly, quite seriously, and I'll try to explain this properly. Basically, the problem. You literally just described it. In 1993, when our group arrived, so many people expected Jesus to just show up on a horse, and it's like, dude, no, you can't go ascribing biblical analogy to everybody that comes by the planet. You're just going to get in trouble again.
True. Yeah. That's true.
Well, I mean, Cass, there's evidence there. Basically, if you read the Bible and take it literally, and try not to read into the analogy or the metaphor. That's what Jesus would look like. That's what the time looked like. The Middle East and the desert, and it's all, lot there has not changed. We're looking at places there, Jerusalem and the desert. There's places there that haven't changed in 2,000 years. So,
no, agreed.
But we're kind of going, with what we know. And that's kind of, I'm not saying that's 100% proof of what we know, but it's what we know historically.
No, of course not. No, I know. This particular subject is very close to my heart. So I try to maintain that emotional distance.
Yeah. And I've worked very hard to avoid being a Bible zealot. You know what I mean? Like, only my material is valid. I've never been that way. I'm open to reading all ancient texts, and I think we do ourselves a great disservice by not, reading them. But there's Christianity is currently corrupt at the leadership level, and it's really, really badly corrupt. They don't have anything except this idea that someone was willing to die for them in a painful way because he loved them. And why was that necessary? They say that God needed that brutal execution to satisfy him. And I'm sorry, there's no need to read all of that into it. There's one verse that says, well, let me tell you this. The first 1,000 years of Christianity, people thought that the ransom that Jesus' death provided was being paid to the devil to let him go. That's what they actually thought, because he used the word ransom.
And that's what dogma will get you.
Yeah. And eventually they decided, no, I think we're wrong on this. And that's happened continuously since that day, where there's so many holes in the Bible that people try to fill them in, and they fill them in wrongly. And especially, I got to tell you, man, that Sodom and Gomorrah story, has caused so much problems for us, and it was a misunderstanding.
Yes, a very huge misunderstanding, and it's led to many crimes.
Yeah. So what kind of overseers do we have that are letting all this happen, letting mistakes fester? letting about. Well, nobody
letting this free will happen. Who's allowing it? We need to shut it down. No, we haven't learned anything in 2,000 years. So where is that, Larry?
Yeah. Well, if you want my positive take on things, I will tell you that I really do believe we have an amazingly beautiful future in front of us.
Yes. What did I tell you, Cam?
What's that?
I said, what did I tell you, Cam?
I believe it. It's coming. Our day's coming.
Yeah, and it's not just for the Christians. Okay?
No sirree doodle. It's for every mitochondrial cell on this misbegotten rock.
Man. Oh, don't get me saying amen, because I don't do that. But anyway, yeah, so I do think we have a bright future, and I'll tell you why. It's because I think the Lord, the Father of Jesus, whoever he is, I don't think he's the creator either, by the way, but he is a spirit. And that's just my speculation. But if Jesus thinks that he's God, that his Father is God, I'm totally willing to take his word for it. And my guy is the guy that I respect is Jesus. I expect to be able to get his advice, from time to time. I have prayed for programming problems that I couldn't solve. In 3 a.m, I would finally, God, I need some help on this. And 10 minutes later, I had the solution. And I was like, God, C++? And, he is,
well, that makes sense. Jesus saves.
Thought he was more of a basic guy, which who uses that? In college, I had to take Fortran. I don't even remember what that is.
Me too.
That's craziness. Let me ask you both a question.
Yeah.
So Larry's got his website is emergingtruths.com.
I also have a YouTube channel.
There's a lot of stuff there, man. And let's do this. Can we make a pact that we'll do 2 more shows? Because there's a lot to go over here.
Yeah.
I mean, geez, Larry, you did a lot of work there.
Oh yeah, bro, dude. That's like there are comparative religions professors that haven't picked on stuff you've talked about tonight.
Right. That's my minor too. I did my major was anthropology archaeology with comparative religion as a minor, and so it's fascinating to me.
I have to say, first of all, thank you for the compliments, but this is all coming from the people. I stand on the shoulders of giants who supplied all the pieces to me, and then after an inordinate amount of time contemplating that stupid story.
Giants are biblical as well. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah. They sure are.
Yeah.
Where'd that come from?
So are the current visitors. That's the funny part. The ETs, et cetera, those are in the Bible too. And these Christians are running around getting angry and not even seeing. Right there, it talks about the 4 living creatures. And it's like, these are not angels. They are living beings that live away from here that also serve. And here they are to help. And people just let it slide.
Right.
So, Larry, we just talked about Passover, and that was super, super interesting to me because I've also wanted to hear more about that, and I've always wanted to hear more about that, and that's one of those biblical stories that have stuck in my mind since a kid because it's super scary. Let's take about 5 minutes max and hit us with one more, and you don't have to finish, but we'll finish the show, and then we're going to make a pact here to do 2 more after this, so we can get a good 3-4 hours of this.
Sounds good.
People
okay.
So give us 5 to 10 minutes of another one that I'm looking at on the left-hand side of your website. It's just like chapters of a book. It's amazing. It's very cool.
Thanks. Well, the one thing I would love to convey to you guys, because it was one of the most remarkable surprises to me, and I don't think many people realize this. I actually got help from the Book of Jasher for this, and I know you don't know what I'm talking about yet, but the Book of Jasher, I know you guys know, but
actually no.
It's another book like the Book of Enoch, where in the sense that it's not in the Bible, but it was well read. And And in fact, our Bible references the book of Jasher by name. So we came across the text, I don't know, 1,000 years ago, something like that, and we have it now. So it contains a lot of redundant but additional detail as well on some of the early Genesis. Now, for example, the thing that was really exciting for me to figure out was the fact that, let me back up and say, you've seen Buddhist statues where money has been laid. It's an offering.
Yeah.
But nobody takes it. The God never takes it. And so a child might ask, well, what is the purpose of this? If God isn't taking it, why are you leaving it? And of course, the typical answer is, well, it's the thought that counts. We're sacrificing to God because we believe that he will fill up the space that we left by giving up part of our money. So
Okay.
That's not a very satisfying ritual if you know the truth about where this started. And it started right there at Adam and Eve again. It turns out that Cain and Abel were asked to bring an offering to the Lord. And it doesn't explain why an offering, should be given. It just it just assumes the reader knows, which is sad because we don't really know. But so when someone would make an offering to him, like Cain and Abel did, what Yahweh used to do is send down a beam of solid light. And by solid light, what I mean is light that descends from the ship, unlike anything that we have, right? Because when we turn a light on, it's boom, it's there, down up in the sky or down onto the ground, it's boom there. But this light descends slowly from the ship, which was probably cloaked because there was no mention of a ship. But it said that the Lord sent down fire and consumed Abel's sacrifice. Now, think about it. That would be a really fun ritual. That's a ritual that would make sense. You put something out there, you step back 10 feet, and down comes this beam of light. They call it fire in the Bible, but it's just a beam of light, right? 21st century eyes can tell you that.
Goths everywhere would be on that.
Yes. So it would consume the sacrifice right there in front of them. They'd be all astonished. But now poor Cain, for some reason, his sacrifice was not respected. And that's all the Bible says, But the Bible doesn't, the Bible doesn't in that particular instance say that fire came down from heaven. Jasher says that. And it really, I don't know why they left it out of the original story because it's very important. Because Cain then becomes wroth, so to speak. That's the old English, right? He's really upset because God just dissed him. Didn't get no fire from God for me. So right away he's angry at Abel and then he ends up killing him. But I wanted you guys to know about that beam of light because that is why it comes up and we're going to do two or three more of these. It comes up many times and I'll discuss it. But in fact, as a teaser, I will say there was one in particular that just blew me away. I'm not going to mention that one now. But yeah, fire used to come down to consume the sacrifice. So at one point, early on, it made sense. And we're going to have to get into cattle mutilations and tie that all the way back to here too, because
that's one of my favorites.
Yeah. Let's do that.
That is absolutely fascinating. I've read about that in
Nice
other,
job,
yeah, absolutely. I've read about that in other things like the light coming down, and there's a bunch of like metaphysical theories, but I've never heard of this Jasher thing. Is there any way like somebody like me who hasn't heard of this can just like look it up or something?
Yes, it's on the net. Just search for it.
Awesome. See, my knowledge has really weird gaps. So my favorite time is when a guest can come on and they know something I don't. Happy Cassidae.
Same here. It looks like that might happen a lot between you and I. So yeah, that's a good thing.
Wonderful. So, yeah, so we will get together again. Let's before the month's out, let's do it again, and then once at the beginning of March, and we can throw those on as kind of extras. So, in addition to the normal Wednesday podcast. Yeah, go ahead, Larry.
I'm also on YouTube, emergingtruths.com, and I have a number of very unprofessional videos up there, but they're all on this subject. And I'm going to be making more as soon as I can, get my teeth fixed. And so I just wanted to mention that and I'm not making any money off the site. It's not monetizable. But I do want subscribers so if you guys, if your audience is of so inclined, I can't even come up with the right words there, but if you're so inclined, please go there and take a look and subscribe if you like it.
Yeah, check out Larry. Again, his website is emergingtruths.com, and everything we talked about tonight, you can read about it there, and it's very well put together. Again, Larry, very good writing. Congratulations on that, and I was glad that we ran into each other. So we'll be back in a week or two. Let's make it 2 weeks, and right at the end of the month, and we will talk more about these subjects and others. Thank you both tonight for being with us, each other, and I look forward to doing it again. And yeah, thank you, Cass, for providing some amazing insight as usual. And again, these podcasts will be available everywhere you listen to fine podcasts. And we'll try to do that before the end of March and have all 3 or 4, just depending on where we end up. So a lot of material on Larry's website, so please check it out again, emergingtruths.com. I'm Cameron Logan, and say goodnight, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Larry. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You can find my website at www.myalienlifepodcast.com, and please subscribe to my latest downloads at iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and at podbean.com. And please follow me and like me on Facebook and Twitter. My Alien Life is written and produced for broadcast at Studio 254 in the Northern Rocky Mountains. The music you are hearing is produced and created by ELEON. You can find all ELEON's work online at Heart Dance Records.
Bye.